Hello, and welcome to Wine with Wita, the podcast that is dedicated to engaging with health professionals and caregivers in meaningful discussions. I'm your host, Rita Shamoon, or as my clients call me, Wita. I'm a pediatric speech pathologist, and I am so excited to have you here. Each week, we deep dive into connecting you with caregivers and healthcare professionals, sharing their insights, stories, and key takeaways to help you with your child's diagnosis and your journey. Whether you are a parent, healthcare professional, a lifetime learner, or simply a wine enthusiast, you're in the right place. So let's sit back and relax and enjoy today's episode. Hello everyone. Welcome to Wine with Wita. Today I have another advocate of a mother who has four gorgeous children, two of which are special needs. And she symbolizes the essence of advocacy and endurance with raising her children and endlessly advocating for their rights to communicate, but also their need to access funding and, be accepted within society. I am graced with Crizli Martins. Welcome to Wine with Wita, Crizli.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I feel honored. It's kind of feels surreal, like I've been listening to the podcast, and when you asked me to pop in, I was like, me? Like, sure, of course, I'll be honored. So really honored to be here.
Oh, I love that. One greatest pleasure of me being a therapist is that I actually see firsthand what it's like to raise a child with special needs, as well as having those every weekly conversations with the hardships that families experience. And I thought, you know what? We've been on a journey together
Yeah.
from treating your son
Yeah.
to then helping you with your youngest and accessing the system and just notice and building a beautiful relationship with you. And I thought, you know what? You have a story. Do you want to
Yeah.
share it? And yeah, you're here.
Yeah.
So, Crisley, please tell the listeners about who you are and your gorgeous kids, and then we'll dig deep into the nitty-gritty of raising a child, actually children with a disability.
Yep. Okay. So just a regular mum, not even a cool mum, just a regular mum. I've got four kids. We've got Mia, who's 14. We've got Amelia, who's 9. Frank, who's 6, and Erica, who's about to turn 3. So we're a very busy and loud, chaotic household. And yeah, that's who we are, I guess.
I love how you said loud and chaotic. I think that's the wonderful adjectives to describe any family with any kids, but also with special needs kids. Let's talk about your son, gorgeous Frankie, and your experience with him before Erica came along, I would say,
Yeah.
and what led you to the path of his diagnosis.
Yep. So Frank Frank was, I think, from when he first started preschool, or even before that actually. You have two kids, it's hard not to compare. Like, you don't do it on purpose, but like, your experience with that one kid, when they're around the same age, you start to compare. So I had Frank, and then noticed, like, he's not really talking as much as his sisters. um, he would have these kind of behaviors that we've just kind of, I guess, put as to quirky. We always joke that he was our little Sheldon. He liked things to be a particular way
Mm.
and didn't really cope very well when things weren't his way. Like, he liked things to be very structured, I guess.
Mm.
And when he went to daycare, it was kind of brought to my attention that, we're noticing a few kind of traits and behaviors, and it might be worth seeing an OT. So we were very blessed that from very early on, our childcare was flagging that with us. So it kind of, all these behaviors that I had already noticed, I was like, okay, you know what? Someone externally is picking that up, and maybe we should, start to look
Mm.
into it, or, you know, start to, like, I don't even know, like, we just kind of thought, there's something up, and it obviously isn't just the normal typical delay, because, it's not like they're flagging this with every kid. So, like, we've had girls early on. He was our first boy. Our family
Yeah.
was like, he's just a boy. He's just a boy. He's a bit slower to talk because he's a boy. So I was like, okay, but they're not saying this to every boy at daycare. So there is something there that he might need a little bit more assistance with. And yeah, I guess that was where it all kind of started for us.
I like how you said something was just up. And it's because the characteristic of kids with autism, well, they can communicate for some of them. They can deal with certain things, but the characteristics are so obscure that it's not something that you would know instantly. Oh, that's ASD, or that's, high functioning autism. And it's about, but he doesn't do it in this environment. He does it in this, does it only at this environment. So then you give him the benefit of the doubt, saying, oh, maybe he's just uncomfortable in those environments. But it's until you see what he's like in other environments and get that professional opinion, like, so that's what it's called. Oh, it is autism. And that's the beauty of the spectrum, right? Not every child is the same.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I remember, one of the things that they flagged at daycare was that he wasn't making eye contact. Whereas at home, be making eye contact. He'd go about face and, like, be looking us straight in the eye. But there was obviously something in the environment at daycare that he just wasn't making eye contact. So it was things like behaviors like that they were picking up on, and flagging with us. And I'll be forever grateful, because if daycare, I guess, hadn't flagged that with me, we would have possibly missed out on, a few years of early intervention. Like, I think one of the benefits is that we picked it up so early. I think we started early intervention at like 2.5 years old with Frank. So that was, yeah, but it was really valuable. Like, it was great that we kind of got a head start on it. Wait lists, anyone that's looking for intervention know that wait lists are crazy. So yeah, we were really blessed.
So you started OT, you started occupational therapy to work on, I'm assuming, some sensory regulation, his play skills and engagement. When did you access speech before you saw me? Or was I your first point of call with speech?
No, no, we had seen another speech pathologist. Um, and it just was really hard because he just wasn't engaged. Like, like with anyone, like, there's just, you could be the greatest teacher, you could be the greatest speech pathologist, but if you just don't gel with the kid, there's nothing you can do to kind of force a kid to access this. And I think that's one of the hardest things, is to, like, you can't just go, no, don't like you after one session. But after a few sessions and you're not getting anywhere, you've got to kind of trust your instincts that maybe you're not the right person or the right fit for my child. Like,
Yeah. I love that you've said that because, sorry to interrupt you. I love how you've said that because with the frustration of waiting lists,
yeah.
everyone needing a speech pathologist, it's like that sense of desperation that you want to
Hmm.
get the service, but then the most important thing with therapy for myself is building that connection. And sometimes, like with relationships, sometimes you're just not the best therapist, or even the environment of where the therapist is delivered, in the home or the school or in a
Yeah.
clinic. And that's where you somewhat have to have those really uncomfortable conversations with the therapist to say, look, respect you as a health professional. We're
Yeah.
aligned with the goals, but my child isn't responding.
Yeah.
What other options can we do to navigate this? Or could you recommend somebody else that would be best for my child?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And it's really hard because, like with the wait list, you're just so scared to try. Like, it's not like we can try someone this week and then, down another month later just try someone else. Like, you don't have that, I guess, flexibility. But then, when we found someone, like when we found you, I was like, yeah, this is my girl. And like, when it came to Erica, I was like, I will wait to get, like, we'll go on the wait list, because I just feel like both us, our personalities, the way, like, the way that I parent, and I just feel like we're just on the same page. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it just seems to, I feel like it just feels more natural to my family's environment, and their personalities and what their
Yeah.
needs are, because that's what they're used to.
Yeah, I love that. And relationship building and building a trusting, fun, but also open relationship with caregivers is one of the biggest driving factors to therapy success. Like, I can sit there, Crizli, every week and say, okay, I know where you're going this weekend, or I know what your day-to-day schedule's like. Could you implement these kind of therapies with your daughter, Erica? And I'll never forget the one where I said, how about we go outside and ride the bike in the park? And you're like, no, Reet, you know what that's going to be like. And it's like,
Yeah,
oh, yes,
you're
yes, yes, I know
crazy.
what Erica's like. Let's just not do that. I'm crazy.
Yeah. But only you were like that whole candle thing, like when I was like, oh, I'd love for her to blow her
Yeah.
candle, and like only you'd be nuts enough to like try that. Like, I like, even when you said it, go get a candle, and I was like, are you sure? Like, are you really sure that that's what you want to do?
Yeah,
But
yeah, with a lighter. I want it all.
yeah,
I was surprised we didn't even have cake to practice cutting the cake,
yeah,
and she doesn't grab the knife or anything.
yeah, like
But
that.
just in context for people who aren't, because this episode's going to be released way after her daughter Erica's birthday. Just for context, so this week, what week are we? We're talking March. I was in treatment with Crizli's daughter Erica, and her birthday is coming up, I believe, in the beginning of April.
Yeah,
And Crizli said, "Oh, look, I would love her to blow her candle for her birthday." And we're lots of special needs kids. They don't understand the concept of waiting, don't touch, and it actually can be a risk factor for lots of kids. So many families find it really hard to actually even sing happy birthday, because even singing is overwhelming for these
yeah,
kids. And I just thought, look, I've worked with Erica for over 6 months now. I know her jam, I know what her triggers are. Let's just try it towards the end of the session. And one thing, and I did this in the video, one thing I absolutely adored was her attempt at blowing. So we had to implement strategies of Erica imitating the circular lip movement and the air control with playing with the animals. And towards the end of the session, she got it. And it was such a beautiful moment that
yeah,
as a therapist, we implemented therapy goals for something I think for you, Crizli, was possibly an unrealistic reality for
yeah,
for this birthday coming up.
yeah,
But we made it happen. I think that night was your mother-in-law's birthday, and she
yeah.
blew the
Yeah,
candles.
she stole the spotlight. But yeah, it was funny because like she still did grab for the cake, and she put her
I
finger in
saw
the
that.
cake. But at least she didn't go for the candle, right? Like, and that's it's just these little things that like you just she just doesn't, yeah, like she enjoys the moment, and like, the previous birthdays, it was just like nothing to her. Like she didn't really react to it. And
Yeah.
this was the first year that I'm like, I think she gets it. I think, when she knows that there's something happening with the happy birthday, and she knows that it's happening, but she just can't. How do I teach her how to blow? Like, it's like trying to teach a kid to blow their nose. Like, they just don't know. Like, I think it was the first time she had a go. She was like,
Yeah, it was so funny. It was
yeah,
doing like a Middle Eastern grunt.
yeah, yeah,
I couldn't stop laughing, but she got it. And I just can't wait for her birthday, for her to blow those 3 candles out individually, by the way,
yeah,
and just her celebrating a moment that is just going to be so memorable for her and for you as well.
yeah. That's it. That's it.
We've gone into talking about Erica, and there's a reason for that. Is because currently I'm treating your daughter Erica.
Yeah,
Let's wrap up talking about Frank, because I feel like Erica is going to be the predominant chat tonight.
yeah,
Now Frank is in year 1, which is second grade of New South Wales education,
yeah,
and I believe he has responded very well to treatment. I no longer see Frank. I feel like he's achieved many milestones, and that is aligned with yourself, Erica, but also with the support that you have received from outside and the schooling environment. Can you briefly touch on the importance of working in a team and knowing that it's not only about the 40-minute appointment that you have with your health professionals, but applying those skills on a daily basis to support your child?
Yeah. Like, I mean, we've been pretty blessed. Our allied health team has been phenomenal. We've stuck with them pretty much from when we found the right people. We've pretty much stuck with them. That's you and Frank's OT primarily. Um, like, we've been on the same kind of page with, we were with Frank. It was a bit because, like, Frank's very high functioning, is quite intelligent. For a while there, we were kind of like, is he on the autism spectrum, or is he just really, really, really quirky? um, and then I
Mm.
think it came down to, he was doing well. I think we were going to stop OT. you know um, he was just adapting really well. And we just were like, okay, I think we've done it. Like, he's done really well. He's got enough coping strategies to kind of get through. And then it was all the talk around going to school. Um, and it was
Mm.
just a huge trigger for him. It was like a huge, huge, huge regression. So it was pretty much like all the therapy that we had done in the 2.5 years was just like out the window. Within like maybe a month of talking about it at daycare, he regressed so quick. And his OT was like, you know what, like how fast he regressed. I think we really do need to go down the diagnosis path. And I want that all ready for
Mm.
him so that when he goes to school, he has the best start. Let's get that all prepared. And it's things like that from our team that, like, it was my first kid with special needs going into mainstream school. Like, I didn't know. Like, I don't have friends um, with special, like, that I can like reach out to like all the time. Like, throughout the years, I've met people with kids with special
Mm.
needs and, with autism that kind of help guide me now. But at the time, I just didn't know. So if it wasn't for that team, that I had, even consulting with you, what do you think about Frank
Mm.
starting school? Like, and just kind of having that, I guess, guidance. It's just, yeah, I just feel like we wouldn't be as successful as we have been. And
Yeah.
not even that, but like, we've got a huge support system behind us. Like, they say it takes a village, and we do. I honestly do feel like we have a village. Like, grandparents are very hands-on in our family. But it's not even just with, like, just helping them get to school and things like that. But you see in our therapy sessions, after that, it's a debrief with my parents, like, hey guys, if one of the
Yeah.
kids is
Yeah.
doing this, we should be doing ABC. And it's really hard to get them on board, like, at the start, I found, because, earlier on, like, we come from like an ethnic family. When we were starting down this
Yeah.
whole diagnosis path, and I said, guys, I think like, seriously, I think Frank might actually have autism. And everyone was like, my parents were kind of like, no, like, what are you talking about? He's fine. He's so smart. Like, what are you talking about? Like, people just want to give kids labels these
Mm.
days. Like, no, 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 no. And they were kind of like in denial about it. But with the
Yeah.
best intentions, with, like, it's not like they look down on it, but like, their exposure and knowledge of kids with autism were like complete nonverbal, like, can't
Yeah.
communicate, kind of.
Aggressive. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like maybe not the most positive things. And so for them, that was just like, no, Frank's just a normal kid. Like, normal, what is normal these days, right? But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but so it was just even like informing them about what autism actually is, and how to best support them. And now they're like, some of the kids' best advocates. And like, they'll even talk to other grandparents and say, like, if like, Frank's got autism, they'll be like, oh, what? Oh, like, but he's so normal. And they're like, yeah, like, like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, it doesn't, like, they don't have to be,
Yeah.
like, they're just normal kids. Like, they, like, I don't know what
What they've
people.
what they've depicted it to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and, so it's really good, but then, like, it's I think it takes a whole village to for them, like,
It
to
does.
support the kids, and, what happens in therapy doesn't happen in the 45 minutes. I feel like, we go to therapy and it's just a lot of homework for me, really. It's homework for
Yeah,
me.
it is. It's like
Um
personal training.
Yeah, and then, like, you gotta do this, this, and this, and so, like, I've gotta digest all that information and then pass it on to my husband, pass
Yeah.
it on to, grandparents, aunties and uncles, friends, like, like, it's a whole it's not just 45 minutes of playtime. It's a lot of, you know, practice that goes
Yeah.
on at home before we even get to the next session, like, it's and what I love
Yeah.
about the way we do therapy is that you don't just kind of you give me very realistic exercises, like things that we can implement every day, like just simple things about, like, hey, give a choice between apples or orange, ask the question, don't just
Yeah.
assume, like just things like that. Yeah, because I think that's the hardest.
Yeah.
I
And
think
that's
it's
the wonder of me. I've been practicing for 15 years, and it comes with understanding what is realistic for a parent to achieve. Even though I know in your heart and with your full intention you want to apply every single strategy. But what's the reality? You still
yeah,
have to work. You still have other children to look after. You still have to run your home, be a wife, support your in laws. How much can you actually do in
yeah,
reality? And so that's where I have to reflect as a clinician. Well, how can we achieve success, or even if it's 10% success for your child rather than nothing in your day to day environment? And consistency is the key. And that's why I
yeah,
love working with parents like yourself, Crizli, is because we have those really genuine conversations of, this is my hardship with this week. Just don't even expect me to do anything this week. Like, okay, let's just let it go. Next week we'll focus on something
yeah,
else. Now let's talk about Erica.
yeah.
How old was Frank when you fell pregnant with her?
I think 2.5. The kids are about, oh, 2, because the kids are 3 years apart. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just found out his diagnosis and you were pregnant at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't diagnosed yet, but we were starting,
So
like,
he wasn't
going down
diagnosed till school. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, what was your pregnancy like with Erica?
Yeah, that was an interesting one because, that was during COVID years. So, you know, everything was as expected. We're all living in this, like, bubble, and, I think it was all good until I want to say, like, the 12, 14 week scan, the morphology scan, when they
Mhm.
start to measure everything. I remember that day very vividly. So, it was my third pregnancy. So it wasn't something that I was really like, it's just a routine
Routine.
scan. You
Mm.
know what you need to do. Got back into the car after my scan and I opened up the envelope, with all your ultrasound pictures and things. And there was not, how you have those, like, that tells you the description of the report from the doctor of what they found in the scan. And I remember
The report.
opening it up and there was nothing in there. And I was like, oh, okay, they must have forgot it and just didn't really think anything of it. I was having nuggets with Frank. I went and got Macca's on the way home and were having nuggets, and then I got a phone call from the hospital and they were like, hi, like, how was your scan? And all of a sudden I was just like, oh no, like, what is happening? Why is the hospital calling me? Because, like, that has never happened. And then the fact that it, like, my report wasn't in there, now I'm like, all the alarm bells are ringing. So then they pretty much called me and said, hey, we found something in the ultrasound. We think it could be something called gastroschisis, where your child's abdominal wall has a hole, so things might, like their intestines or your stomach or things like that, might be on the outside of their body, um, growing at the outside of their body. And then she was pretty much like, oh, but like, don't stress too much. and don't Google anything until we're able to see you, and then give you this and give you more information on this. So I'm like, the fact that you're telling me not to Google it, I'm already asked. I'm like thinking, how do I spell that? And I'm already like on the phone, like
Yeah.
straight on Google, and then like you just kind of feel like crazy. Like, what do you mean my baby's insides are on the outside? You're just like, it just hits you like a ton of water. And that's literally how it was delivered to me. They're like, oh, we don't have any appointments available until next week. So, yeah, just we'll book you in, but try not to Google it too much. And, yeah, and I just had to kind of sit there and digest all that information. And, yeah, and then from then on, it was kind of
Were you
like,
like in a denial phase? Like, how can my child's body parts be born on the outside? This can't be it. Were you tempted to go get another scan? Without a doubt, you were Googling and calling people to
yeah,
find out. And I absolutely hate how they say, don't stress. I'm like,
yeah.
how can I not stress? Like,
You just
I want an
dropped a
appointment
bombshell on me.
tomorrow.
Like, what do you
And
mean? Yeah, no, I don't think I was ever in denial about it. Like, if anything, was the complete opposite. And like, that's all I could think about, and just went into this black hole, like this hole of like Googling and trying to research as much as I could about it. And yeah, like I was like straight onto Google, onto Facebook, seeing what groups were out there, trying to like find as much information and experiences that people had, I guess, to kind of reassure me. I don't know. Like, I was looking at some crazy pictures. I don't know if it was making me feel better or worse. I really don't know. But it's just hard to stop. Like, once
maybe it gave
you,
you like a sense of reality.
yeah. And I just wanted to like know, like,
Mm.
what, like, am I going to have a baby come home with me? Like, you don't, like, when you think about insides on the outsides, you just think the worst. And I guess, yeah, yeah, it was a stressful, that was probably the most stressful week, until I actually
Yeah.
got this other scan and got to speak to a proper doctor. I think it was like the feto maternal unit, which is like the unit that you see when you have complications. So once I
Yeah.
saw the doctor there, they kind of reassured me that, like, hey, yeah, it is pretty serious. They're not going to, sugarcoat it. But of all the crazy things that could happen with a baby, this isn't the worst of it. They reassured me that, yep, your baby's going to have a tough few weeks or months, but after that, you know, it's smooth, like it should be relatively smooth sailing. They are going to have a normal life. You're going to bring a baby home, like things like that. And I guess once I got that, I was just like, okay, this is just a hurdle that we're going to have to go through, but
Mm.
we can do it. Like, what else are you really going to do, right? Like, this is
Absolutely.
what
There's nothing else you can do but to have faith.
yeah, that everything will be okay. Like, you prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And yeah, like,
Yeah.
and so far it's worked out
So
for us.
you get to the end of your pregnancy.
Yep.
You get to the end of your pregnancy with Erica. Talk to me about the birthing process and what that experience was like for the surgeries that came after.
Yeah, so the process was, we had to deliver, because we're from Southwest Sydney. We had to deliver at Randwick Hospital, because I think it's only Randwick and Westmead that have a neonate, like the very like specialized, operating and NICU for really ill babies. I think that's in the state. If you have a really sick baby, they're the two hospitals that they go to. So I pretty much went, I think, up until 30 weeks into my normal hospital. Then from 10 weeks on, I get transferred to Randwick and kind of do all my scans there and start to get briefed on what's going to happen, there. Then I deliver naturally, or I've delivered all the kids naturally, and that's the best practice. that they want. It puts less stress on both mum and bub. And I think there's even less chance of cutting anything, like when you're cesarean, there's a knife, there's
Oh, yeah,
more
yeah, yeah.
of I guess nipping something. I mean, if they need a cesarean, they'll do it, but if it can be avoided, I think that's the preferred
Mm,
method. And for me, I knew that
mm,
we were going to have a lot of traveling to do, and for me, I really didn't want to do a cesarean because, practically speaking, if I was going to have to, be driving to hospital back and forth from home to hospital, I needed to be able to move. Like I've
yeah.
never had a cesarean.
Not move.
I don't know how my body's going to recover from a cesarean. Um, like I knew realistically I couldn't just be at the hospital until she came home. We don't know how long a hospital stay. They said an average between 6 to 8 weeks that she would probably be there on average,
Wow.
but then it just depends. Some kids can go home later, much later. They can have a lot more complications. They said, it just all depends on when she comes out, what's actually out, and how it recovers, and how she recovers from her surgery, because it's getting everything back inside her tummy is the easy part, but it's waiting for her digestive system to actually wake up and start working. That takes a while, and there's nothing that they can kind of do. It's not like, oh, it just takes 6 weeks. It's literally based on how they react and how they recover. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Were you induced?
Yes, I was induced because they don't like gastroschisis babies to go over, and they prefer to have everything. They induce you so that their team is ready. So
Mm.
I would give birth.
And how long were you in NICU for?
Erica was in NICU for about a month. So she smashed goals. We were estimating 6 to 8 weeks, like in our families, like my family's mind, we had everything kind of prepared for 6 to 8 weeks. And we were actually,
Yeah.
like, she came home just before she was 1 month old, which is great, like unexpected. Like I
Oh,
said, you prepare for the
pretty.
worst and hope for the
Yeah.
best. And yeah, we were really lucky in that aspect. Yeah.
And just tell the listeners, were you like in a sense of flight, fight mode that whole time, or were working on adrenaline just till she reached that moment of, oh, she's now home and safe in our home environment?
I think it was just adrenaline. Like, like when I talk
Mm.
to people, when I was talking to people about our situation and what we were going through, people were like, "Oh, I can't believe you're able to do that, and you're doing it." But like at the time, I'm like, "What else could I do?" Right? Like,
Yeah.
I had to. It was just really hard because it's like, I just felt guilty that whole month, because I was guilty that Erica was in hospital. I was feeling guilty that I wasn't at home with the other kids. I was guilty that I wasn't at home with my husband. I just felt like no matter what I did or where I was, letting someone else down. Um, but yeah, I just kept pushing through and just tried to
Yeah.
keep it. I think because I had so much time to prepare myself for what was to come, I had already said, like, Erica will know. There will be times where Erica would have to be left on her own, and I had to kind of come to
Yeah.
terms with that in the hospital, which is really hard because you see a brand new baby and you're like, how can you leave a baby on their own? But the NICU staff were so supportive, and they're also like, it's one to one. Like, she's not going anywhere. There's one nurse literally there. So go look after yourself, rest up, and go spend time with the kids that realize that you're gone. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it was just trying to juggle it as best as
Was
we
that
could.
realistic? Because I can just imagine myself, my mindset is thinking about my baby who's in the NICU unit. and you're trying to be present, but the idea of being present is so far from the reality.
Yeah.
Were you able to achieve some sense of connection?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, a part of me to this day, sometimes, if I'm having a bad day, I still think, what if I was at the hospital
Mm.
24 hours a day? Maybe we would have, I would have been talking to her, singing to her more. Maybe then she'd
Yeah.
be, her language would be better, and her, I don't know, like you start to think about that, but then I'm like, it is what it is. This is what we were blessed with. She is who she is. There are kids that, like parents that do all sorts of, like, alcohol, drugs and things, and have perfectly healthy babies,
Yeah, yeah.
like you can't, like I can't keep crucifying myself and thinking that there was anything that I could have done that could have changed
Yeah.
how she's developed. But yeah, like it's just something that I guess we just kind of work through, and just remind myself that, if this was a friend that was telling in this same situation, this would be the advice that I'd be giving and
Yeah.
telling
Yeah.
telling them. But yeah, sometimes we're our own worst enemy, like you can't
Absolutely.
stop these
Yeah, yeah,
things, these intrusive
yeah.
thoughts.
No. So let's talk about now her development. Were you playing compare the market where Frank has a diagnosis coming up and you're looking going, okay, she doesn't present what he had when he was younger.
Yeah.
And what point did you think, something is not right here? Is this part
Yeah.
of her initial diagnosis, or are we
Yeah.
going down an autism path again?
Yeah, so I think she was completely like, once she got home, she was like the normal baby, she was hitting all her milestones at like the correct time. Um, she was always a bit cheeky. She just slid into our family really well. So
A bit.
yeah, the thing that I think got me, and the when the light bulb kind of clicked to me, it was like she was eating she had gotten to the cupboard and helped herself to some Maltesers. And in typical Erica fashion, she was just sitting in the corner, just eating Maltesers. And I was like, look at her. And I was videoing it, as I do with everything. I was videoing it and I was like, cheeky. And when I was watching back on the video, I realized I was going, Erica, Erica, Erica. And she actually was not reacting whatsoever. And
Mm.
I never noticed it until I was watching back on that video. And then I kept watching it and watching it. And then I was saying to my husband, like, hey, watch this. Do you notice anything? And he was like, no. And I'm like, she's not responding to her name. I'm like, she's not responding to
Mm.
anything. She's not reacting. And then, typical male fashion, he'll be like, oh, you like, it's nothing. It's fine. But then
Overdoing it.
once
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And then I, like, because maybe it was with Frank, I'd message, like, I'd bring it up with family and I'd show them the video. And I feel like a lot of people were like, no, you're just overthinking it. You're hyper aware because of Frank. Like,
Mm.
um, and that was before she was 1 year old. And then a lot of people were like, okay, you know what? Just go get, if it gives you peace of mind, go get her hearing checked. I got her hearing checked. Everything was fine. And then took her to a doctor. And then I was like, okay, I'm concerned about A, B, and C. And they're like, she did have a complicated, birth, and, she might have a bit of delay, which is typical for kids that have, like, from the NICU and have issues at birth. So they're like, just give her a few more months and things like that. But yeah, it just wasn't, she wasn't developing as normal, like neurologically. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Neurotypical. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Whereas all the physical milestones in terms of, like, being able to grab things, she was exceeding. Like, she's the most coordinated of my kids and most active. But yeah, I guess because I noticed it very early on. Again, I was able to start early intervention quite
Yeah.
early and get on those wait lists. Like I think I was
That's right.
doing
That's right.
intervention with Frank and I was like, Rita, something's up. Like I'm noticing
Yeah.
some. And then, yeah, like we were like, okay, just wait a little bit. And, but like, yeah, we were straight on the wait list with you because I was like, I want, by the time she's ready, when people say it's time, like I want to be ready and have everything in place to do what we need to do. And yeah.
Yeah. So when I met Erica, it was, I would say, we started treatment in 2024,
Yeah.
about October,
Hmm.
and she presented. I'm going to tell the listeners her diagnosis. Is that
Yeah.
okay, Christy?
Yeah. 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 That's
Yeah,
okay.
she presented with severe receptive and expressive language delay, as well as her pre-verbal skills. So her ability to engage, copy, and have appropriate play skills were not appropriate for her age as well. And it's interesting that you mentioned before there's the spectrum of Frank and what his idea was with with his characteristics. But then when you look at Erica, your daughter, it's like they are chalk and cheese,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they still had a delay.
Yeah.
Talk to me through with coming to terms with both of my children have challenges, and how did you cope with the overwhelming sensations that come with that diagnosis?
Um, I think we're still working through, like, I'm still processing it. Like, it wasn't until you actually
Mm,
asked me to be on this podcast that you were like, oh, with a mum of two with two special needs kids. And I was like, oh, that's actually the first time I've been referred to as that. Like, I don't think of it that way. It's just I've got two kids. They're a bit quirky. They're
mm,
a bit neurospicy. They're the words that we use.
I
But
love it.
yeah, like it just I guess it hasn't clicked to me. Like there's good days and bad days, but like in our household, that's all I've ever really known. So it's to me, I'm just like, oh, these kids are just being a lot today, like
Yeah,
I don't know. Like I feel like that's kind of just how I've looked at it. It's not maybe I haven't even processed it. I don't really know,
yeah.
to be honest.
As a therapist, seeing you as a caregiver, I just think you have definitely just embraced their neurospiciness and said, "Well, these are my children. There's nothing I can do to change it, but I am going to give them the best life that I can and advocate endlessly for them to my fullest capacity. And damned if you do, if you want to interact with me, damn if you don't, kind of
Yeah.
perspective. But these are my kids, and I'm going to celebrate them."
Yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, I think at the start, like, especially with, like our ethnic backgrounds and like I said, my parents weren't so openly to accept it. And, I just kept saying, I kept using the word autism. And I remember, like, if I was out and talking to people and they were asking me about it, I was like, oh, we're getting Frank diagnosed with autism. I think Eric has got autism or things like that. They kind of just didn't say anything, a bit kind of like, it's not that they were ashamed, but it just wasn't something that was, I guess, really openly spoken about culturally. Whereas
Mm.
now, because we speak about it so often and it's so normal in our household now, that now they're like, yeah, but you know that they can do this, like that, and they'll talk the kids up, like any proud grandparent.
Yeah. Chrisley, what background are you from? You mentioned
We're
ethnic
Filipino.
background. What are you
Yeah,
from actually? I never.
my parents are Filipino.
Yeah. Okay. So Filipino background. And do you feel over time your culture is becoming more accepting because of your kids?
Yeah, like yeah, and I think it's just around conversations. Like we joke around
Mm.
about this woke generation, but if something great has come out of this woke generation, it is a lot of like talking about the kind of uncomfortable things and not hiding the fact that my kids do need extra needs. Like
Yeah.
like we joke around now. Like there's some characters with Frank that I'm like, Dad, I think you might need to get diagnosed because there's so many behaviors that are so the same. But like, back in the day, like there was no like diagnosis. There was just he's just very structured, but there are a lot of things. And it's like a running joke
Yeah.
in our family that maybe dad might also be on the spectrum, but like he's a very successful man. And, like we just joke that, like even if that's how Frank's going to turn out, then that's not so bad, right? Like,
That's going to turn out.
yeah,
It's funny you say that because it's I've heard that why is there a rising rates of autism lately or diagnosis? But I sometimes I think it's just always been there, but our awareness in society has significantly increased. Our diagnostic path has also increased, but also access to support has, I feel, changed it quite significantly. From
yeah,
a financial perspective, therapy is very expensive, from psychologist, speech, OT. And when your child needs all those services, parents sometimes think, what is the best service now for my child? Because that's all I can afford. But
yeah,
thankfully, due to NDIS funding, parents are accessing services earlier, which then doesn't hinder them from accessing the diagnosis
yeah.
because there is that funding there.
That's
Let's
it.
talk about how funding has supported you accessing funding and achieving the success with your kids. And any tips for parents as well?
Well, funding, like NDIS funding for us has been a huge relief because for
Mm.
us, I was like, Frank was doing his OT and speech. He was doing them alternate weeks. So that's every week we're having, you know, therapy costs. And then I think we were going to start Erica. And I was just like, double the cost of therapy. And I'm like, are you okay for me to disclose? Not your thing, but like a range. Some sessions are like $200 plus. And it's just like for 45 minutes, times that
Mm.
by two. If I had to do two a week, that's $400 a week. That's a lot. Like that's a
That's a lot
lot
of
on top
money.
of
That's
like
groceries.
daycare.
Yeah.
Yeah, like daycare fees, school fees, sports fees, like yeah, it was a lot. But we were lucky enough that once Erica started, Frank was funded, so the budget that we had allocated for Frank was just transferred to Erica, which is great.
To Erica. And now
Yeah,
Erica's getting her funding, which is really good. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But like, if I have heard from families where they're like, I'd love to do OT, but it's just like, we just can't afford it. They don't have a diagnosis, or, they don't know how to get a diagnosis, so that, or the NDIS, applying for NDIS just seems so overwhelming for them, that they don't apply. And that they miss out on all this help that they could potentially have. And I honestly think that the kids are progressing well because we did start things so early on, like I didn't shy away from
Mm.
therapy because I just thought, well, if it's there, then why not? Like, if I can give the kids the best possible chance start, then why not? Like, why wait? And, all the research shows that early intervention is key. So the earlier, the better. Less gap
Yeah,
to kind of
yeah.
have to catch up
100%
on.
agree. Yeah, thanks for opening up about that because it's so hard to access the services that your child needs and also access funding. What tips could you give to parents who are going through the early phase of their child, possibly being diagnosed? What could parents do now in the process?
Um, Trust your instincts. Trust your instincts,
Yeah.
because if you do think like, hey, this is maybe not so typical. I think this is more than just a normal tantrum or normal behavior. I'd say, start to go down that path, because wait lists and, even just to get anything done just takes a lot longer than you initially
Mm.
anticipate. And just start to get the ball rolling as fast as you can, because yeah, things take, like, Frank had a diagnosis. We knew he was going to be approved for NDIS, and that process still took 6 months. So
Mm.
yeah, it was
Mm.
it's really hard. Like, even like Erica doesn't have a diagnosis, so we're just going on for early intervention because she has a few
Early
delays.
intervention. Yeah.
Yeah, significant delays so she'll be entitled to it. But yeah, that I don't even know how long that, like, more than 6 months. So, yeah, that would be my biggest
Yeah, it's
advice
been a
is,
while.
yeah,
And I guess one thing you highlighted there is that with Erica, she hasn't got a full diagnosis yet, but
no,
her function currently for her age is not age appropriate and it's actually impacting her in many ways. So I guess that's where, as a parent, you can really advocate for your child, especially when they're under a certain age. You can really push for their rights. And that's where you are beautiful, Crizli, where you're like, well, no, just because my child may have autism or may be presenting with something, I'm not going to wait till I get that diagnosis because she's still a little bit too young to
yeah,
label her.
yeah,
Why not really support her needs, see how far she's come along, and then it's not like you're hiding away from the diagnosis as well. Let's just get her all the support that she needs so she can achieve things in a functional way.
yeah, yeah. Like for us, like people were like, why do you want to do this thing? I'm like, I don't really care for a label. Like my kids are my
Yeah.
kids. They're neurospicy. That's what we call them. Um, if a diagnosis helps, get them extra help and support at school, if it helps get us funding, then so be it. Like they're still Frank and Erica. Doesn't matter what label someone puts on them.
Yeah.
If that label helps open doors to give them the best chance possible, then give them whatever label you want. I don't really care, to be honest.
Yeah. It doesn't change anything, does it? The
No,
therapy
it
doesn't change,
doesn't.
just the
No.
access to services change. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's before we finish up, I want to talk about one beautiful element, which I'll say at the end, but let's talk about we always talk about this in treatment, expectations versus reality for therapy. And it's about where did you, when you said that to me the other day, what were you thinking? Where was your mindset at when you made that comment?
Like I just feel like a lot of people just have expectations of what therapy is, and your expectation that you're
What are
going to
the
go to therapy.
expectations?
Yeah, like expectation that you're going to go to therapy and it's going to fix a child. um, that's the
Yeah.
expectation that if you do more therapy, um, you'll get better results. But that doesn't necessarily mean that. Yeah, like I don't agree with that. I think the reality is that even with one session a week or one session a fortnight, if you apply those tools, and what you learn in session, I guess reality is that it's a lot of homework for us and like the family and whoever the support system is for the child. That's what the
Mm.
reality of therapy is. It's a lot of homework. It's a lot of strategies put in place to support your kids. It's not going to necessarily fix them. It's just going to
Yeah.
help you understand why they behave in certain ways and how to support those behaviors, I think is the
Yeah,
reality of.
absolutely. And it's about the quality of the therapy rather than the quantity of the treatment.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important message to tell parents because having partnership is so important in treatment. And it's about, I've got the tool set. That's where I went to university and my clinical experience. You know your child, you know your child's triggers, you know your child's strengths. Let's work together. And you tell me what will work in your current moment to make somewhat your expectations a reality.
Yep.
But it's about, okay, I've got these expectations that I can't make your child talk, but it's that's the end goal.
Yep.
But we have to really work on all of these skill sets before we achieve that. When I think that's the hardest thing about being a speech pathologist. There's this misconception that all I have to do is just make them talk and then my job's over.
Yep.
But as you know, Crizli, it's about the early foundations of attention, a joint attention, turn taking, understanding their name, responding to simple directions, and building those play skills, which will eventually lead to their first word.
Yep. 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 It's like sometimes it's like, it's not even, it looks like playing. It looks like you guys are just having a good old time playing together, but like what I like about our sessions is that you explain to me, like, see how this is in look, see how she's mimicking something um like that's showing that, like turn taking and imaginative play. There's all these things, like you're showing me the concepts. Like it doesn't need to be all these crazy tools. It could just be a matter of opening the fridge and what's there, and how we
Yeah.
can use everyday items to kind of
Or
help
even
get
putting
more
stickers on your
practice.
walls.
Yeah, yeah, like to get practice, like,
Make it as
yeah,
functional as possible.
yeah. And I think that's what, like, you can go on Instagram and TikTok and be like all these, like, play therapies and things like that. But like, are you really going to be doing all this setting up with all this like fun painting and things like that? Like, it's like 30 minutes of setting it up, and then you're
No,
going to be like freaking out after like 2 minutes because you're getting paint on the wall. Like, it's just not realistic. Like,
it's not
you know,
reality.
no, no.
No, it's not realistic at all. Excuse me. So I want to talk about one beautiful success story about Erica before we finish up. And
Yep.
one strategy I like to use with children is singing, and also adding language and being very consistent. And one thing that you do consistently with your children on a daily basis is say the Our Father or
Yep.
pray.
Yep.
Can you share Erica's first word, please, or one of her first words, because of your repetition and the consistencies that you have with your family on the day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So one thing that we do consistently with the kids is tuck them in. We have downtime, we have chat, and we do prayer. So generally speaking, we say the Our Father, and we were doing that with all three kids in the room, and just randomly, like so completely unexpectedly, just one night, Erica, we were saying that in the name of the Father and the Holy Spirit, and she just said, Amen. Like, it's not like of all the words, like, like I do like that word and I'm grateful and praise be, but yeah, it's not, a functional word that I was like trying to get her to say. But yeah, that's the word that she chose, and it just happened to be on the best day because that day just was a really particularly hard day for me. And then I just took it
Mm,
as like a sign for, I could have cried that like when I heard it, because it was just like a sign from
yeah,
God to kind of be like, you've got this. Like, it's just trust the
yeah,
process. Like, we're getting there. Like, it'll happen when it's meant to happen. And it was just like, just her saying
yeah.
amen, like just completely out of the blue. We weren't prompting her to say it. It was just her, like just
Mm.
randomly. Yeah. It was just amazing. And I think I shared that with you
It's so
pretty much.
beautiful because we're just talking about expectations.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's
these are
like
the
we spoke about previously about expectations, yeah, and then we didn't expect her, but through the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, she said it, and I think that
yeah.
is such a beautiful message of having faith, letting go, trusting the process, and it will all be okay. And ever since then, she's just yapping on and developing her skills. And I just think she's such a gorgeous young girl. And I'm absolutely
Oh,
falling in love with her because every
thank you.
session she knows I'm here, we're ready to rock and roll, and let's get our words out with her. She's just a darling.
Oh, thank you. She's a handful, but yeah, she's
And I said this to you in therapy the other day, the testament of knowing how she's improving. I'm not chasing her anymore. I'm
yeah.
not running around the house. She just knows we have to sit down and Miss Rita has her goods. We're here to play. And I'm actually quite happy with that because I used to get very tired in session.
I know. And I was like, Rita, like, you don't need to go to the gym. You're throwing her around, jumping up and down. Like, oh gosh, I was exhausted just watching you guys. Like, but thank God it was you and not
Deadlifts with
me.
Erica. Oh, Crizli, this has been an amazing chat. Thank you for your vulnerability and openness on Wine with Wita tonight. If we were to finish up, because we're finishing up, is there anything you can give as words of wisdom to any parent going out there at the moment?
Just believe in your kid, I guess. Like, like it's so easy to kind of get caught up, in like social media and even like family and friends when you see kids that are the same age as your own. And you can't help but compare. It's just I think in our human nature. But I think once you just start to realize that you're doing your own thing in your own race, I think the expectation that you have for yourself and for your child kind of changes, and your outlook, and you start to celebrate the little things, and you know what, they should be celebrated. Like, I think a diagnosis, or a diagnosis is hard. Like, you do have to kind of mourn what you thought you were going to have, and you have all these expectations of, like, I guess you imagine what your kid is going to be, all that they can, and it is different. But I think if you just get rid of the expectation of what you feel they should be doing, you'll start to celebrate what they are doing, not instead of
Yeah,
what
I
they
love
should be
that. I
doing.
love that. That is
Yeah.
gorgeous. Yeah. Crizli, you are so positive. You are the a cup half full kind of mindset. And I feel like the world needs more of you. And I absolutely love working with you and seeing you every week and just talking about the success of your gorgeous daughter. And it just makes me glow and be so happy with that I'm able to help you. And I
You.
absolutely love that. So thank you for giving me that privilege.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. And thanks for being such a great
A
support to us.
pleasure. I love it. I love it. And for everyone else, if you want to know more about Crizli's story, I'm sure without a doubt she'll be happy to support you. You can follow her on her link on her social media, or even contact her. But again, thanks everyone for listening to Wine with Wita, and another amazing episode will be coming very soon. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Wine with Wita. I hope you found some new inspiration, learnt something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you please leave a 5-star review, as it really helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it takes 5 seconds. If you're keen for more strategies and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow RS Speech Pathology.